Hello students, today we will be learning about the first chapter of class 8 biology, which is crop production and management. We are going to learn about different agricultural practices the farmers perform to grow or to raise a crop. Some modern methods of agriculture, some traditional methods. We are going to learn about all this and what all a farmer does to grow his crop, starting from sowing a seed till the time the crop is ready. What are the different steps he undertakes to grow a good crop. So we will see the different steps first of growing crops. See, these are the various ways in which a crop is grown. So initially, it is the first step undertaken is preparing the field, preparing the soil, or preparing the crop bed. Okay, so this is the first step undertaken. We'll be learning about each of these steps in details. Today, we will be focusing only on preparation of the soil. Right, and by and by we will cover the other portions also in the subsequent videos. Now once the soil or the field is prepared, then the seeds are sown. Then after sowing seeds, the manure or fertilizers are added. These are nothing but these are nutritional enrichment of the soil. Certain micronutrients, certain macronutrients, certain organic matter which the soil might not be having or may be having in smaller amounts, those are fulfilled by adding manure and fertilizer. And then we all know the importance of watering. So irrigation is the next step, where the field is watered in such a way so that the water demand of the crop is met. Then weeding. What are weeds? These are the enemies of crop plants. These are plants which are enemies of crop plants, and we will not go into the details now. Just remember, since they are enemies of the crop plants, so the farmer will also ensure that they are removed in proper time. That is called weeding. Then harvesting. Now your crop is ready, all precautions have been taken. Now it is the time for the farmer to cut and gather the grains. Next, threshing, winnowing. These are different steps undertaken before the grains or the crop can be preserved or stored. And finally, the storage part, where after the crop has been gathered, then it has to be stored, but before storing, certain steps will have to be undertaken. While it is being stored, certain precautions will have to be taken. So this entire practice is a very, very complicated, I wouldn't say, but then it is a long time consuming and a well thought of process. Okay, so we will start with preparation of the soil first. Would you like to have a recap? Let's go for a recap of these. So first, preparation of the soil, then the seeds are sown, then fertilizers or manure is added, the field is watered, enemies of the crops or the weeds are removed, then the crops are cut and gathered, and finally they are stored for future use. So these are the agricultural practices undertaken by a farmer so that his crop is ready and can be sold in a good condition. Preparing the field. What is preparation of a field? Say for example, you have just had your annual exams, your class 7 annual exams. Before the annual exams, your annual exams started probably in the month of February. But maybe from end December or from early part of January, you had been preparing very sincerely for your exams. That means the exam is going to take place in February, but the preparation for the exam goes much before that. Similarly, when a farmer is growing a crop, he simply does not sow the seeds. He ensures that the ground or the field in which he is going to sow his seeds are ready enough to receive the seeds. So what happens is, why this step is important? Say a farmer has grown he's grown paddy in his field. Okay, so the continuous all these say around 3 to 4 months or even more in certain varieties, Lot of nutrients have been taken up from the soil by the crops. Water has been taken up, manure, fertilizers, whatever he's had, it has been taken up. Then another very important thing, the field has been continuously watered, so the air spaces in the soil, they have become closed. And not only that, the soil has gradually got compressed. There is hardly any air in the soil. That means this soil is now not ready for the second batch of crops. So once this farmer has cut his crops, he has gathered them, in other words, he has harvested, then he has to prepare his field first before sowing the seeds for the next season. And it is a multi-step process, and this is what we are going to learn in this portion, that is preparing the field, which is an important step before the seeds are sown. What are the steps undertaken? First step is plowing the field. The field has to be, let's say the field has to be combed. What happens when you comb your hair? The hair becomes loose, they become loose from each other. Right? Similarly, here plowing will ensure that the soil becomes loose, and once the soil becomes loose, air can enter into the soil. So that is plowing. Then leveling, the field has to be brought to one particular level. Then manuring and adding fertilizers, nutrients which the soil might be deficient in, and finally irrigation. Once all these steps have been taken care of, once all these steps have been performed, now the field is ready to receive the seeds. So let us see these steps one by one. We will start with plowing. I'm sure you must have seen these pictures. This is a traditional method of plowing where we use animals, cattle, to draw the plow, or this is a modern method of plowing where a tractor is used to plow the field. So whether it is a tractor or whether it is driven by a cow, a traditional plow, whatever it is, the idea of a plow is to comb the soil, is to churn the soil. The idea is to churn the soil. So this is nothing but plowing. So plowing refers to, or plowing means churning the soil with the help of an instrument called a plow. Now this plow, which is an instrument, it looks something like this. This is a traditional plow, or it could be a series of such plow. It could be a series of these plow if it is tractor driven. Whatever it is, whether it is a traditional one or a tractor driven one, they all have these ridges at the bottom. See this picture? They have this part at the bottom. So with the help of this part, the needle-like part, when it is dragged on the soil, it makes a hole, it makes a trench in the soil. Not only that, it also churns the soil, it overturns the soil, and this is very important. Okay, so let us go back to this picture. Imagine, you can see these grooves that has been made in the field. Similarly over here you can see the grooves. That is because of the constant churning of the soil by the plow. Now why is this plowing important? I told you that when the crops are grown for a particular year or for a particular season, then for all these months the soil gradually gets compressed, and as it gets compressed, the air in the soil gradually becomes lesser and lesser. A point will come where there is hardly any air in the soil. So if the soil does not have air, what will happen when you sow the seeds? When the roots come out, you know the roots, they take oxygen from the soil, but when these roots come out and they grow in this oxygen deficient soil, they will not be able to take oxygen because there is no oxygen in the soil, and ultimately what will happen? The roots will die and the entire plant will die. Next, what happens is, if the soil is compact, then the good, you will be learning this later in the chapter, there are certain good microorganisms, some good bacteria present in the soil which will help in increasing the fertility of the soil. So if the soil is too compacted, then these will also not be able to grow. Thirdly, the earthworms. You know the earthworms are friends of farmers. they help the farmers in several ways, but if you are talking about a compacted soil, earthworms will not be able to grow. Very importantly, if the soil is very compact, imagine a small root coming out. Will the root be able to grow deeper into the soil? It won't be able to grow deeper into the soil. So for all these reasons, the soil has to be loosened. And that is exactly what happens with ploughing. So what is the importance of ploughing? The importance of ploughing, the most important factor is that it loosens the soil. It loosens the soil. And what is the importance of this? It creates air spaces. Air spaces are created in the soil. So what happens? Because of these air spaces, roots will be able to breathe. Roots can breathe. Then good bacteria, farmer friendly bacteria and earthworms will thrive in the soil. Next, what will happen? Next is the roots will find it easy to grow. Roots will penetrate the soil easily. Also, it causes churning of the soil. Churning of the soil means, say the topsoil, it has lost its nutrients by the previous year's crops. More nutrients are ready in the bottom layers, but the bottom layers will have to be brought to the top, because only then will the roots be able to make use of these nutrients. So the plough churns the soil. So due to the churning, what happens is the nutrient rich lower layers are brought to the top. So by and large, these are the various importance of ploughing. One is that it loosens the soil and that creates air spaces. Next, because of the air spaces, roots can breathe. Next, good bacteria which help the farmers, which supply nutrients to the soil. Those bacteria and the earthworms, they will be able to thrive. Then roots will be able to penetrate the soil easily because the soil is loose now. And finally, the nutrient rich layer which is at the bottom, they will be able to come on the top, and this year's seeds, this year's crop will be able to make use of those nutrients by the process of ploughing. Okay, so this was about ploughing. Now let us go to the next. This is the second step after ploughing. It is called leveling. The name of the step is leveling, where you can see that there is a farmer and there are these two cows and there is a shaft. There's a shaft over here which is being driven by these cows or the bullocks. Okay, so this shaft, what is it doing? It is leveling the field. It is bringing the entire field to one uniform level, because ploughing has caused churning of the soil. Previous practices of the last year's growing crops has caused a lot of unevenness in the field. So this field will have to be leveled first. Why? Why will the field have to be leveled? Because if you don't level the field, there will be some ditches, there will be some pits, there will be some unevenness, some lower areas, some higher areas. So eventually when you water the field, what will happen? Water will not be distributed properly. Those areas which are at a lower level or where you find these pits and ditches, they will get filled up with water, whereas the other upper areas, they will be having scarcity of water. So that is the reason why the field will have to be leveled after ploughing, so that the entire field is brought to a level. What is the importance of this? The importance of leveling, first is, since the field has been brought to a uniform level, so we can say uniform distribution of water across the whole field. There'll be no pits, there'll be no uneven areas, there'll be no low-lying areas. Everything will be brought to a level, to a particular level, and which is why uniform distribution of water can be ensured. Also remember, these leveling of the field will slightly compress, not too deeply, it will slightly compress the soil. So what happens is, this will protect the topsoil from erosion. So this will prevent soil erosion, because the entire field has been brought to a level and slightly compressed because of the leveling plank, which is why the soil now cannot be blown away by air. Okay, so then we move on to the next step, that is manuring. Ploughing has been done, leveling has been done. We move on to the third step, which is manuring. You can see here what is written: organic enriched manure. Organic enriched manure means this is nothing but it helps in improving the fertility of the soil. It has been made by natural process. It has been made from natural substances, and this is a very, very good substance for improving the fertility of the soil. What exactly it is, how it is made, we will be learning about all this in the later parts of the chapter. Now, for now, remember, this provides the organic material present in the soil, the organic material that had been used up by the previous year's cultivation. Those organic material, in the form of humus, is going to be returned back to the soil with the help of these manure. So what does manure do? Manure helps to improve the fertility of the soil. What does it provide? It provides organic matter to the soil, which is very important for plant growth. So manure, in certain cases fertilizers also can be added at this step. So whether it is a manure, whether it is a fertilizer, their job is to improve the fertility of the soil. They have certain differences between them. Manure and fertilizers, they are different, but we'll be learning about them gradually in the later parts of the chapter. So that was about manure, and finally we have this very important portion, which is watering the field. Watering the field. Now, irrigation is not something which is done only in the initial stages. Irrigation has to be done at various stages of crop growth, depending on the type of crop which is grown. But here, in the initial stages, water has to be given to the soil, because a lot of water maybe had been used up by the last year's crops. So water has to be returned back to the soil so that the seeds germinate. Water is important for the germination of seeds. Also, when the plant grows, when the plant grows and the leaves come out, then they'll be performing photosynthesis, for which they'll be requiring water. So water is also required for enabling the plants to perform photosynthesis and make their own food. So that is why water is added. Not only that, the fertilizers that have been added, they are actually water soluble chemicals. So they also need water to dissolve, and only in this dissolved form will the plants be able to take fertilizers from the soil. So water also helps in dissolving the fertilizers added to the soil. So that is the reason why irrigation is also a very important step. Irrigation is done in different ways. There are certain traditional ways, there are certain modern ways. Again, regarding irrigation, we will be learning about in details when we come to this part of the chapter later on. Finally, with that, we come to the end of the class, because that is what our intended topic was, to teach you how the field is prepared before the seeds are sown. So all these steps will have to be ensured. It is not simply that the farmer sows the seeds and we have a good crop. For getting a good crop, first the soil has to be prepared, and the soil is prepared by the 4 steps, that is ploughing, leveling, manuring and irrigation. Now your field is ready for receiving the seeds, and then the seeds are sown. And regarding sowing seeds also, we will learn in the next video. Let us discuss some important questions. What are the different steps taken before sowing seeds? So write about plowing, leveling, manuring and irrigation. Why is a field prepared before sowing seeds? Because a field, before the seeds are sown, what happens? Before the seeds are sown, a field will have to be prepared because the previous batch's cultivation has taken up almost all the nutrients and all the water from the soil. Not only that, it has compressed the soil. It has made the field uneven. So for all these, the field will first have to be prepared and only then the seeds sown. Then, why is plowing and leveling important? Plowing is important to introduce air spaces in the soil, and leveling is important to ensure that the field is at a particular level and there is equal distribution of water all across the field. Finally, what is the importance of adding manure to a crop field? Whatever organic matter the field is deficient in, those organic matter is provided by manure to a field, which is why manuring the field is very important. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Any queries, any doubt, any clarification, you can always mail me at Shupriya B. Ganguly at tigps.in. I hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you. Have a nice day.